Hey everyone, my name is Tim Wright. I've been the researcher for the Yellow Cohen Research Channel. And something I wanted to bring up was it's kind of strange, but I'm glad you all are here to check it out. Um, I've been looking a lot at Hekhalot literature. Now, some of you are like, what? What is Hekhalot? Hekhalot is the system of the seven heavens, basically. It's the Merkaba mysticism, is I guess you would say it's the way of working with those seven heavens. But Merkaba was something that is totally different from Kabbalah. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because often we mix the Kabbalah and other Jewish forms of mysticism together. So often you'll have like a seven base system, and this has a lot to do with why we're so mixed up in our tree of life representations and everything. We're trying to mix seven base mysticism with Kabbalah, which is essentially 10 based. Though there are the Kabbalistic correlations between the higher unfallen triad and the lower seven, they're really not the same thing. Um, and I know there's like the palaces out there they talk about, but not to my understanding and not to my real satisfaction has anybody been able to explain a seven base Kabbalah system. Now sometimes you have the lower six planets around the sun, and that's kind of cool. And often you'll see different representations of that motif. But really, the only person I've seen that's been able to make a seven base Kabbalah work is actually Christine Payne Towler. And a lot of it is a tree of life representation that is just foreign to people. Um, I won't go over her method. It was pretty secret that she even showed it to me. But basically, what it does is it allows the higher triad to move in the pillars. So it allows the planetary seven doubles to move between the channeled Sephiroth that they are between. So it's kind of interesting, but the seven base system makes a lot more sense when you go to something like Hekhalot literature. And the Hekhalot literature, or the mysticism of the Jewish Merkaba mystics, was first spoken about by Maimonides, by Maimonides. Say that three times fast. By Maimonides. So Maimonides talked about two types of Hekhalot mysticism. One was the work of the creation, and that is kind of going through the first book of Genesis and pretty much Sephirot Zero, and looking at the cosmological foundations behind creation. So we kind of call this science now, but back then they didn't have science. So it was called the work of creation, where they were working on this multifaceted, multidimensional level of reality that was behind the mundane, plant and desert life that they were looking at. So they postulated that there were these, which is true in Hekhalot mysticism, that there's these seven heavens and they can be experienced in four worlds. So, kind of like you're seeing in the Marvel movies now, they were worlds stacked on each other. And as the worlds were stacked on each other, you could experience different levels. So that was way back when. Maimonides didn't really say much about that. And then there's a next Jewish mysticism called the work of the chariot. This is the Masea Merkaba, which is the work that most Hekhalot literature goes through. However, we haven't had much Hekhalot literature in history. Pretty much antiquity only gave us a couple of texts to go with Hekhalot. One was the Ezekiel book in the Judeo-Christian Bible, and the other was a text called the Sefer Raharazim, the Mysteries of Heaven. And it talks about a bunch of angels, and it goes a little bit through the seven heavens, but it doesn't do enough. Recently, academia has supplied us with a translation of all known Hekhalot literature, and that's what I'm working on. As a researcher, this really interests me, and I'll talk more about this in the future, and you'll know why. With the loss of one of the systematizers, I think of our age, of the Elu Cohen, we're kind of stuck in a place to where these foundations are super important. So I am doing that kind of research and study. Even though I'm not a scholar, I pretend to be one on YouTube. So what happens is I'm going through the Hekhalot literature, and it was in a main collection of a translator named Peter Schaeffer. And Schaeffer did what was called Synopse. It's nicknamed Synopse. What it is it's a massive collection of Hekhalot literature, and I'm going through it, not only cataloging it, but doing a rough Google Translate. If you're familiar with the material, you'll be familiar with the type of language that's being used. So what I wanted to do was kind of go through that and see if we could get the Hekhalot literature showing itself. Let's see if I can show you some of my some of the document here. I may have to do another recording for this. I'm not sure if my system will allow me to see it. Let's see. I'll do another screen capture. It's really important to do this because if we don't go back to our sources, we're going to be stuck in a world that kind of doesn't give us what we're looking for. So here is Synopse. You'll see over my face. And then what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and get this to be a little bit larger. We'll go to the top, home, let's see. And like I said, this is something I'm currently working on. So volume 1, if you can see, you can't see right now. Let's make it really large. Volume 1, you'll see each one of these areas where it says, it looks like a double S, a paragraph. These are the German equivalent of Synopse that I have translated to English. So we're working on this as a basically synopsis of the literature itself. And you'll see they have things like the hierarchy of the angelic princes of the 7 Rekim with the 72 angelic princes of the 72 kingdoms. So the point behind this is not to hide behind a bunch of academic garbage. It's one of the most amazing things I found, and this was by Ithamar Gruenwald in a book about Hekhalot mysticism, is that ironically, the Hekhalot mystics, the chariot mysticism, was not veiled. There is no interpretation needed for these texts. The reason why is because there were high prohibitions on reading this kind of literature. One was that, like, if you do hear a voice, your brain is going to blow up, your body's going to get boils, you're going to be totally cursed for the rest of your life. And who knows, that may happen to me. I mean, this life, if that's what I have to sacrifice in order to be a mystic like this, then I mean, so be it. I'm done for. But the point is that this literature was highly prohibitive. You were not supposed to read, investigate, study anything about Hekhalot mysticism. If you knew somebody, you weren't allowed to talk about it, you weren't allowed to teach it, you weren't allowed to read it, you weren't allowed to do anything related to this stuff. So once you actually get the texts, they're not veiled, which is amazing for our researching generation, because now we can just read these things and see exactly what they were saying. So let's see if I can get this to work. And I'm going to try to get a better, yeah, I think that'll work a lot better. So you see that they talk about things like the Shem, they talk about things like the Ophanim and the Seraphim. Nowhere else in the Bible, the Judeo-Christian Bible, do you see stuff like this. Metatron, on and on and on. The cosmic potency of the divine names. And like I said, none of this is veiled. As you'll see, I'll go down to my translation. This is the first Synopse tractate, and you'll see, when I got to the entrance of the seventh palace, I presented myself in prayer before the saints, praised him, turned my eyes up, and said, Lord of the world, I ask you that you are with me in this hour. The merit of Aaron allows Amram, which it's very interesting. This name is Enoch. I thought it might have been Abraham, but there's Enochian, not to the John D. and Kelly material, but Enoch based material. In fact, this is the angelizing of Enoch, which is, his name is Metatron. Enoch was so good at riding the chariot that he was supposedly given a place of honor on the throne as Metatron. So whenever Metatron is talking, you're actually hearing the tractates of Enoch, which is super important for scholarship because this kind of stuff hasn't been known. But like I said, if you read these materials, they are not veiled. So it talks about being in this hour, and that's very important to the calendrical mysticism of the Hekhalot mystics. The crown of the priesthood of your glory received on Mount Sinai. This is an angel name. The prince, which means Sar, and the angels who are with him don't roll over me and may not throw me out of heaven, immediately introduced me to the saint, praise be he, Metatron, or Enoch, his servant, the angel, at the sight of the princes of the face. He spread his wings and came out to me in great joy to save me from their hand. He took my hand in front of her. This is actually the feminine representative of mysticism in Hekhalot literature. It's amazing. And said to me, this is Enoch preaching in a kind of hierophantic voice. Come in peace, because you have found favor before the high and exalted King, Yahweh, or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, to contemplate the form of the Merkavah. So right in the beginning, you're seeing that you are not being, I mean, yeah, there's this discipleship, there's this textual tradition. Of course, you're going to have to read some of this literature, but you're not being told how mystic and amazing this is and how you're not going to hear about this one thing until you're worthy and you've done all this stuff, which regular Kabbalah does. Kabbalah basically tells you if you're worthy enough, then you'll learn the secrets of the Torah. And if you've learned the secrets of the Torah, then you'll understand Kabbalah, which is halfway revealed and halfway concealed when you hear it. That's not the case with Hekhalot mysticism. It's basically, if you have the capacity to understand, they tell you fully right off the bat what's happening. So it's really amazing. This kind of mysticism has remained hidden for a very long time. Like I said, Sefer HaRazim was the only clue that we had that this kind of thing existed. But in that, they talk about these extraordinary ideas, such as governors of one palace and all the angels that are in another palace, and governors of another and all the angels that are in them. And so it was kind of hard to take on as a form of understanding for scholars. They weren't universal. The names were quite arbitrary. A lot of times you would have like a Hebrew word with the name El behind it. And so it was similar to the Shem Farash, but what was wrong with it was it had no real contextual history outside of the Greek magical papyri and kind of Jewish phylacteries and things like that. But more and more in this age of information, we're getting to a point where we can actually understand these things. Now the Hekhalot literature has been fully translated into German, at least, and German is a very precise language, so we are able to actually get an English rough translation from the German of all of the Hekhalot literature. Some of it has already been done in Brill's Merkaba and translation, I think it's called. But very little has been done on the Synopse itself. That's what I'm actually working through, one all the way to the end, cataloging, and I'm going to be talking pretty extensively about it because there is proof positive evidence that Hekhalot mysticism runs through the Western esoteric tradition. It was known. I can't tell you how I know that, but it was absolutely known. Its forms are unmistakable once you know what you're looking at. And I will hopefully be able to outline for you why Hekhalot mysticism is so important versus our old kind of glyph of Kabbalah, which one of my friends on Facebook is saying that, Kabbalah, it looks great, it looks amazing in special effects, but there's really nothing behind it if you don't know what it already is. You're pretty much stuck looking at some figures on a piece of paper and wondering how the letters that are in Hebrew have anything to do with your life. And you can kind of go down the way of mysticism like that. The letters, they do reveal and conceal at the same time. But if you get into these extracurricular Kabbalistic studies, such as Hekhalot, but you can also get into Lurianic Kabbalah, which is mainly a theosophy of how this kind of mysticism can be brought into actuality as you contemplate the letters and you understand. Mainly, it talks about the generation of letters and how the letters have become through simile of marriage and the heroes Gamos, how the letters have become Yod He Vav He, how those are different personifications of the Godhead. So that's fun. And if you have a bunch of time to read it, it's a couple thousand pages. But the Hekhalot literature, like I said, it's not veiled. It's not guarded. Once you get there, you'll start understanding things really quick. Like in Ezekiel, he says, when the cherubim or the winged creatures that he saw moved, so did the wheels move, and they did not move without each other. That kind of phraseology is very important to understand. And basically, if you are able to get deeper into this thing, you are able to start to understand what the purpose of Hekhalot mysticism was. But I'll do some videos in the future about that. Like I said, nothing that I'm talking about has been given to me by anybody's tradition. This is just through exegesis and a little bit of interpretation of the literature, which I hope to make available to everyone. So I will post this video on the Elu Cohen channel, but I'm also going to post it on the Western Mysteries of initiatic tradition, because I believe that this will be a lot more beneficial of a route to go. Having previewed pretty much the whole Elu Cohen system, um, I think Merkaba is a easier, more understandable place if you're not versed in the theosophy of Saint Martin and Martinus de Pasquale. So let's go ahead and go toward that direction. I'll be happy to share portions of Synopse with you. And if you get a chance, go and find the 2013 version of Brill's book, which is titled, let's see, uh, that would be, I'm trying to look at, here it is. James Davila's Hekhalot Literature and Translation. It is the only thing in English, and like I said, it's a Brill book, so it's super expensive. But it supplements to the Journal of Jewish Thought and Philosophy by James Davila from 2013. It's a Brill book, and that gives you a translation, not all of Synopse, but it gives you some of what the literature is that we're talking about here. But as you'll see, and the one that I'm working on, let's go to the table of contents again. And like I said, this is not a finished work, so you're going to see roughly, things that, you'll see things roughly that are not fully ironed out yet, because like I said, I have not fully gotten this work down. It's something that I'm studying. But in the sections that haven't been translated by anyone, mind you, that are still in German, they have something specific to some of the Martinist-esque groups that I think would be of very, very large importance, if I can find it. What it is it talks about the Aleph, and how the Aleph is so important to the angelical system of the Hekhalot literature. Maybe I'll have to look for that. I know I saw it. But there's other stuff that I would like to talk about in the future. As soon as this gets done, right now you'll see that I am out of like 800 or 900 sections, I am at section 68. So there's some interesting stuff in here, though, for sure. And like I said, I'll want to make it available to anybody who wants to read it, probably through academia.org. In the spirit of the Elu Cohen and the offering of things gratis, I may make this just available via academia. But for myself, I'm going to make a hard copy book, because, like I said, nothing in the tradition has spoke so clearly of Metatron. This is Rabbi Ishmael, who was probably an adherent to the Merkabah system, and Metatron spoke to me, and then you get it right here. Come and I will show you the souls of angels and the spirits of servants. So there's a little bit to interpret, but once you get to the Jewish words, it's not, like I said, veiled, which is amazing, because most of our literature is highly, highly veiled, and you won't be able to find anything like this clear, explicated, and so little, I say that ironically, but so little amount of words. So hopefully you'll come back for more videos and check me out on academia.edu when it's done.